nervous?
No.
Where's your answer?
Dennis Beckham, let the ball on! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Dennis Beckham! Oh!
Oh, no! Oh, yes! He missed it.
Welcome to the Suffering from Joy podcast. My name is Devin. An Independence Day point for Austin FC up in Seattle. Other than that, that was certainly a game of football. Joining me today, Charles Peacock of the False Nine. Charles, how's today for you?
I contend that wasn't really a game of football. Just like this morning's was just kind of a complete and utter debacle of watching both of your teams do absolutely nothing in the attack. It's been a frustrating 12 hours.
Yeah, I can imagine. Seth, who knows everything, how about you?
I watched two MLS games yesterday, one in person and this one on TV/my phone, and I saw one real team out of four teams play a game yesterday. So at least someone could play in the MLS.
Not great advertising for the league, although I did have fun with the snow game.
Yes, more snow. I mean, for all the people that are like, we need to go to a European calendar, part of me would be like, yes, it would be really fun to have multiple snow matches, but it would probably more look like League Two in England, where they postpone like two matches every week, and then they're scrambling to play a bunch of random like Tuesday matches in April to catch everyone up.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't love the every Saturday thing, but knowing about a game like a week in advance is way worse.
Yes.
Filling out our panel today, Brad, what you got going on?
Smoking some brisket and ribs today, trying to make something positive out of the weekend.
Nice. I think there's a metaphor for throwing some meat on and waiting for something to happen for Austin FC there, and eventually it will for you, but we weren't quite so lucky. Where do you guys want to start? I mean, there's no goals, so we can't really talk about that. This is our second draw in Seattle. We got one in season one. We won there, and we've one loss. We have a weirdly good record in a place that's sort of fortress MLS. Is that a positive we can take from that?
Yeah, maybe. Just like the draw in 2021, that was a match where they had a goal that was taken back on VAR pretty late in that match, and we got thoroughly outplayed. I mean, I'm almost shocked that we got to .09 XG. I mean, we didn't have a shot in the first half of this match, and somehow we played a better first half than we did last week. What does that say about this team?
Yeah, I think I saw our first shot was in the 74th minute, and I feel fully justified in randomly nodding off a couple times during that game. I watched it back to make sure I didn't miss anything, and I didn't.
Wait, calling that Valencia thing a shot is generous. Because it was really just a clearance that bounced on goal from like 30 yards out.
I'm sure that's like a big chunk of our XG, though.
It was 0.1 XG, is that what I think it was? There's 0.01 or something like that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we finished with 0.09.
Yeah.
So it's probably that Valencia thing and like 0.07 on the Rigoni chance at the end.
Yeah. I feel weird about this game, right? Like, in a vacuum, somebody said it last night. I heard it said, where in a vacuum, a point in Seattle is not worth complaining about. Like, I'm not going to do that because it's a good result. Big picture, man, this is brutal. Like, the attack is just Josh Wolf is supposed to be an offensive coach. The attack is absolutely abysmal. I thought the back four played a great game. And plus Stuber and Valencia in there too. But the back line was really good last night. Hedges played his best game in an Austin jersey. Cascante was fantastic. Biru, when he got in the game, Biru's got some sauce to him that I think is really interesting. And is going to help us move the ball down the wings a little more as he gets more time. And it's pretty evident to me early that he's going to usurp Kalmanich as a starter sooner rather than later. But even Kalmanich didn't have a bad game last night. So credit where it's due on the defensive work. But my God, man, there was nothing for possession. And there was, for a team that loves to have possession, there was absolutely nothing for possession, just a ton of passing giveaways. and no threat to an attack. Once or twice, it looked like we might have had a chance at a counter. But here's the thing. If you want to play defense and counterattack, you can't do that with a slow-ass roster. And that's what we have right now.
There were a couple of times watching those counters where I felt like we should literally get like a high school basketball coach and just have the team run the three-man weave drill like on repeat.
Yeah.
Because like they have no idea what they're doing. And I guess maybe this is why we don't counterattack. Because it wasn't even like, oh, you made the wrong choice. We kind of talked about that a little bit on a chance last week. But this was literally like, oh, you guys just don't even know where you're supposed to be at all.
No. And when they get into a remote chance of space, they seem scared to shoot.
Yep.
I saw that last night when Owen checked in the game, right? Around the 88th minute or so. He was at the top of the box, and he had a lane to shoot, hesitated, and then passed. It's like, dude, it's nothing late. Try to steal one. What the hell? Just take a shot.
Yeah, actually, like the entire first 85 minutes or so, the game was played in our third. But we had some offensive threat in the last, 5 minutes plus extra time.
Yeah.
I mean, the counter to the just try to hit it at a goal because you're kind of open was the Rigoni shot at the end that just was not even in the realm of being on target. I mean, the thing that I think is frustrating is that the midfield, which in theory should be one of the stronger parts of the team, without Driussi, none of the pieces seem to fit. And a big problem with the counterattacking, three-man weave that you guys were discussing is that none of them have any chemistry with the strikers up top when the ball does get laid off. And it just doesn't seem like any of them know. I don't know. There's just no chemistry, which is weird because all those players have been on the team. Like, besides Rubio, that's literally the only excuse. And and the frustrating part is seeing the same players make the same mistakes over and over again that we've seen happen for years.
Yeah, there's no change. Like, we talked about this definitely a ton last year. Like, if we're going to be terrible, can we at least be terrible in a new way or terrible in an exciting way? This was none of that.
Yeah, interesting terrible would be great. I would love interesting terrible.
Yeah, like San Jose, we might win by 5 or lose by 5 any week. Give me that any day.
I mean, I was thinking Luton, but yeah.
Yeah, okay, I like Luton. And I mean, we kind of play, a little bit of an old school, well, I mean, not intentionally. We've been playing on that counterattack, and it feels a little bit like kind of your classic proper football men, like your Sam Allardyce, your Sean Dyches, but without any of the attacking prowess those guys bring. Where you just bunker in, but then we can't even hit on a set piece or a counter.
Yeah, I mean, there are no targets on set pieces, and there's not enough speed up front to hit on a counter. And so it's no surprise that we get bunkered back because there just are no outlets to be able to give us a reprieve.
You have to have an attack to get a set piece, guys.
Yes.
We had 0 corners last night. 0.
I was about to say, you know what? I'm going to pivot us for a second because the Fire debuted an amazing promotion last night that I will want you guys to see what the Austin counter should this to be. So the Fire have a new promotion this season that if the Fire there are 5 key ingredients in a Chicago hot dog. If the Fire get 5 corners in a game, everyone gets a free Portillo's hot dog. What should be our Austin FC? We need 5 quarters in a game incentive for fans. That's better than 5 free wings at Pluckers.
Ooh, that's
we can answer this later. I'll let you guys marinate on it for a little bit, but I think that's a very relevant point. We had 0 freaking corners last night.
I was thinking we could do something with queso. Or you get
yeah. I mean, do we want to start the holy war of what goes into queso? Because I don't think we want to do that with our fan base.
It might be more interesting than talking about the game, but I don't think we want to dive into that. Maybe we could do if we get 3 shots on goal, we get the trio sampler.
What if we lower the bar to 4 and then we have street tacos? So you have your shell, your onion, your cilantro, and your meat.
And maybe throw cheese in there to go 5.
Well,
that's where you put your taste.
There you go.
All right. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna strategize, and we're gonna get a knockoff version of Paul Areola to run down the wings, kick the ball into a guy's shins for a corner that we're gonna do nothing with. Just so we can all get street tacos.
I'd be fine with that.
I like this plan.
Deal.
This is better than the direction.
A great plan.
Yeah.
That's way more progress. That's way more forward progress than we had last night as a team, so that's fine.
We did have a couple chances at the end, though, and is Rigoni getting worse? Like, I don't know if this is just in my head because I was just like, you were so goddamn frustrating that I like forgot about it in the off season, or
so I think one of the big problems is that without Driussi to take gravity and defensive attention in the middle, everything relies on everybody else, and it didn't help him that he doesn't have. I don't feel like Rigoni ever gets any like help or anybody to play off of in like a 1-2, or like even like having like Coleman-ish overlap would be great. Like I think that was one of the good things about Bureau was he did actually like make some effort to get forward and to help link up. But it's tough when you're just kind of on an island by yourself against, you know, at least one defender in front of you trying to make something happen. And like that just was what he was stuck trying to do the entire game because Austin didn't give him any support.
I think it's arguable we played Rigoni in the wrong position last night. He's probably closer to a true 10 than anything in that starting lineup that we had. And if it were me, and we're going to bunker and we're going to play counterattack like we had the plan last night, CJ Fodry gets the start on the left to add some speed and some legs, and you put Rigoni in the middle at the 10. I would have.
I'd also put Gallagher up at the right wing for that because then you're at least.
Well, you had
guys who are willing to counter.
You had Obrian in the starting lineup, though.
Yeah,
like on the right, that was plenty of speed and plenty of willingness to run. That wasn't the problem, right? So Gallagher, the right back, is still the slot for me there. But Rigoni, you mentioned it, Drew. He needs Driussi to play off of badly. But last night, he had nothing to play with. I will say now that some of the touches he had were terrible. Like the cross to no one inside the 6 was, I have no idea what he's thinking there. I didn't mind the 2 shots. I know everybody's on his ass about the last 2 shots. Man, he at least put the ball towards the net, which is something we didn't do all game. So at that point, I don't care. I'm just glad somebody's trying to score a goal.
Yeah, I mean, we're all complaining about how the team doesn't shoot enough, and then somebody shoots and we complain about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about that. Finally, somebody took a game shot.
Also the conditions were bad. It's not like Seattle was like super had an easy time with what was going on around it when you look at their total shots versus shots on goal. Like, I mean, you do have to give them credit for at least trying to do something and make something happen. At the same time, like, I think he gets unfairly criticized for not being as good as Driussi. But I think part of the problem is that Rigoni isn't the kind of like goal scoring or like central player who knows how to make the game about him the way Driussi does.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And you got the other thing too is that was new turf last night. I don't know if y'all knew that, but it played slower than previous Seattle turf fields. And in the rain, which should have sped it up a little bit, the rain actually didn't do that at all, seemingly. I don't know, man. Like, I think Rigoni, he's easy to pick on because of his salary, and everybody just expects, like you said, they expect so much more out of him. We have so many bigger problems than Emiliano Rigoni on this team right now. You can't expect the left winger to create everything when you can't get the ball past the damn midfield because your midfielders can't hold possession.
Midfielders can't hold possession, so then the backs start bypassing them and hitting them up forward. And we don't have anybody who can really hold the ball up like Rubio tried.
Yeah.
He did get shoved into a bench for a little bit of his effort. So that for me was the most like thing that happened in the first half was a guy throwing him into the bench.
Yeah, Josh Wolf getting a yellow card was fun. I thought that was okay.
Yeah, he had a look that I don't know if it was the facial hair, the tired look, the kind of jumping up out of his seat and getting a yellow card or the changes in the starting lineup, but it looked like he might have gotten a talking to by the higher ups in the middle of the week. Maybe I'm being optimistic.
I think you're being very, very optimistic.
Thanks, Seth.
So I'm sure that he got to talk about it, but I still don't think his seat is anything but like pretty cold still. Like I think he's probably feeling some pressure because of just also keep in mind, like, he's having to watch this shit too. And so, like, he can't be happy about, like, watching his team play this way when he wants to be a more offensive attacking coach and play that style.
Yeah, I'm going to detour just a second because since we're talking about Josh. And we beat this horse a lot about, man, he's not good enough. He's not performing enough. and I said this.
We still will until he's fired.
Yes, exactly.
Or we are somehow a top 4 team in this conference.
In the last 50 games of MLS play, just straight MLS play, how many points have we gotten?
50?
55-0.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
it's like 58 or something like that.
I was gonna say 56.
That
Yeah, I
is
was
the
gonna-
number.
56.
It is
Okay.
56 points in 50 games. So just slightly over 1 point a game. At what point is it not good enough for management? Has to be the real question now. Because you can't just sit here and say that's a small sample. 50 is not that small of a sample size. That's a season and a half, damn near two full seasons of soccer for MLS play. I'm not even including Open Cup and Leagues Cup and everything else in here.
I don't know. I would have thought with how heavily we missed the playoffs last year and bringing in kind of a new sporting director and the Project Roto or whatever the hell you want to call it, they would have gone, okay, new thing, bye. But hey, we don't make those decisions. We don't have your 1850 or 1849 jellyfish. I don't know. All we can do is try to figure out when they're going to change it.
There's 4 home games of the next 5 that we play. So out of these 15 possible, and the 1 road game's at Orlando, out of these 15 possible points, if you don't pick up 9, you're dead in the water. The problem is I don't see 9 points on this schedule coming up here.
And you looked pretty good last night.
I've already written next week off as a loss.
Philadelphia is going to crush. I would actually not be surprised if we pick something off Philly, but on paper
Philly
they
has
should
to go
crush
to
us.
Pachuca right before they play us.
Yeah. So maybe we get something out of that. At Orlando, no hope at all.
Well, no, Orlando's a weird team. They got to play Tigres, and they're going to be on this. I'm a little disappointed that City didn't beat Houston and continue on in CCC themselves. We want teams to be as exhausted as possible, and they look at our hopeless side and be like, "Oh, they're terrible. We can run out our B side and still at least get a point against them."
I was reading a little bit before the game, kind of hey, how are you feeling about the game and stuff like that? And, a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I'd love to take a draw for this. And then I kind of looked at our schedule and I went, yeah, that's the next 2 or 3 months. Outside of Copa Tejas games, I think almost every single one on our schedule, I'm just like, yeah, take a draw there. That'd be nice. So it's not optimistic. We're not playing great soccer that people want to watch and then shooting ourselves in the foot or something.
But also,
go ahead.
Oh,
I was going to say, keep in mind, Kansas City, you got off to a terrible start. In MLS, you just need to get hot for a month or 2, and you can still sneak your way into the playoffs and do something.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of to me, that's kind of the plan this year. Roto's talks so much about summer and when that becomes available, and it seems like we're keeping a lot of spots and kind of money dry of being able to make a move if needed. And that's really the only hope we have is that during the summer transfer window, somehow things improve.
Yeah, the talking about the league right now, the one solace you can take is everyone has dropped points already 2 weeks into this whole thing. There's not a single team that has picked up all their points. So the parity, quote unquote, is real. I just don't think we're near the top end of the parity. That's the problem.
We are the wooden spoon front runners at this point, even if there are other teams who haven't gotten points.
Yeah. How long do we think that's going to last?
I'm trying to figure out who would even maybe Toronto.
But Toronto, they have John Herdman as their coach now. John Herdman has figured out, he didn't do great at the World Cup, but he got Canada to the World Cup.
He won CONCACAF qualifying.
Yeah. John Herdman is a good coach who will get things. And, they look competitive. I don't know if I'm going to watch too much of the New England-Toronto game, which kicks off in about an hour here. But, Toronto's one of these teams that, they're not going to be the worst team of the East this year. I can feel pretty confident saying that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty likely the wooden spoon comes out of the West because, like, I just don't see San Jose or Colorado doing anything either.
Here's why I don't say that. The West is way more even than the East. And a team like NYCFC, who's looked rough the first 2 weeks, they're going to take a lot of losses in the East. So I think it's going to be somebody, whoever the bottom end of the East ends up being, is going to take the spoon. Because there's enough points to be picked up in the West to where it'll stay just above the line on that respect.
Oh, see, I think the West is more like a bunch of teams who are like competent and good, and they'll beat up on like the bottom 4 or 5 teams in the West the whole year. But like in that group, I think there's going to be a lot of like dropping points every week, and it's going to change around like it kind of did last year. But I don't know. I just think there's more depth of like good teams in the West than like, or at least like competent to good teams in the West.
I think the East is way stronger than the West.
The East is way strong. No, like Brad is right here. The East is way stronger than the West, just top to bottom at this point.
Yeah, but and that's why I think one of the teams that ends up at the bottom of the East is going to end up with the spoon. They have more opportunities to take losses than teams in the West will that can squeeze out a draw or a win.
But like there's no one so bad in the East that they're going to lose to everyone.
No, I mean, they're not going to lose to everyone, right? But I look at NYCFC right now, and I'm not seeing much there.
Yeah, but it's also their city football group, as I just watched Girona give up a goal here. But like they will go and get to a point here where like then again, like we should get better this summer. But like it's gonna be a really boring podcast if we just keep talking for 4 months about how we should get better this summer. And that's not really that goal against Girona shouldn't count. That was a handball on Mallorca, but I don't know if they're
honestly, your live commentary of other games is kind of more interesting.
Yeah,
that says everything where we're at right now.
We should have live commentated during the Manchester game this morning, honestly.
I would have gotten more views.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we probably could. I bet we could have gotten like 115 views. It would have been great.
Yeah, I want to do a live watch along of you doing the Mark Goldbridge watch along.
Yeah. Did anybody think there were any? So I wanted to bring this up because like the league put out a press release propaganda piece about the replacement refs not being any worse than like the regular refs. So did anybody feel as though like I don't know? Has anybody felt like there has been a like very demonstrable difference?
Yeah, yes. Kansas City last night. Did you?
Okay, I haven't watched that. So what? I didn't get a chance to watch that one.
It's the 93rd, 94th minute of 4 minutes of extra time. A ball goes out on the sideline, clearly off of Philadelphia, so it should have been Kansas City's throw in. They're up 1-0. Kansas City is. Ball gets ruled off of Kansas City instead. Philly throw in. Philly works it down for a corner kick, goal. Tie game.
And then Johnny Russell goes to protest, and the ref is like, I can't speak to you, despite the fact that Johnny Russell is Sporting Kansas City's captain.
Yeah.
Maybe he was just saying he doesn't understand Scottish.
Between that and the second yellow last week in the Galaxy game, I mean, those are 4 points. Those are 4 points combined that have shifted due to bad refereeing calls late in games.
And the game I was at last night, I was sitting right above the corner kick flag, and there were 3 goal kick / quarter kicks that went the wrong way that were obviously visible. But the ARs were just struggling to run down. Like, they're not in shape. And if these referees aren't in shape and they can't see a simple goal kick from a corner kick, and also we're now getting to a point where because there were more matches consolidated, especially in the 7:30 window this past week, that they had to use more scab VARs who are not experienced using VARs. The Chicago Fire got a completely undeserved penalty last night that was called back 90 seconds after the run of play, where the FC Cincinnati player gets all ball and they go back and view like no one in the stadium none of the players, none of the fans were demanding a penalty kick, and they just awarded a penalty.
Yeah.
This is atrocious. But if it works to benefit Inter Miami, it's good for the league.
Yeah, and let's not forget about what happened with Miami's refereeing yesterday. A few hours before kickoff, they had to change referees because it became apparent that the referee assigned to the game had pictures of himself in an Inter Miami kit online.
And wasn't smart enough to take him down ahead of time. This is the part that bothers me.
I mean, every scab ref has been like going through their social media, making sure that like those photos are disappeared now.
Yeah, send them to private. Jesus fucking Christ.
But the problem, I will say, even if you send it to private, the U.S. soccer community is such a small place that all these people know each other, so that even if you send it to private, they're going to find it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like I think the PSRA has not done a good job of raising their leverage outside of supporter groups really right now, and even that has not been as effective as it needs to be. But as they're getting to a point there, like they know these people, and I think their private investigators or whoever else, or just public investigators of their own members finding out things is their most effective tactic right now. But I think we could have a year-long lockout of the refs. Like I don't see if MLS is not going to put out a better offer here. Unless and I don't think this quite gets to Joe Biden intervention level. Like, I don't see how this gets solved.
Yeah, unless every SG in this league does what the Austin FGs have kind of started to do, which is boycott something. Not boycott the match, but at least boycott concessions, where it start hitting people in the wallet, nothing's going to change because MLS feels no pressure to change.
Well, are you protesting the refs or U.S. Open Cup? Like, I don't.
No. There's two. Yes. There's two.
Yeah.
Yes. Protest.
But how do they know?
So I'm not. Well, that's actually simple for me. For the refs, I'm not buying concessions. I'm still going to games. I'm just not buying concessions and making it loud about who we were supporting with the refs. Open Cup, I'm not going to Leagues Cup, and I'm not giving my Leagues Cup tickets away if I get them. Like if we get them in our season ticket package, I'm not giving them to somebody, and I'm not selling them. Those seats will stay empty.
I think that's the plan right now too.
That's the protest.
When do we find out if Austin hosts?
Oh, we do. Leagues Cup or FC2? FC2 hosts the U.S. Open Cup.
Yes, FC2.
Right.
A Leagues Cup, the schedule should be out sometime in April, Charles.
Okay.
Wow, that's pretty far in advance for MLS.
Yeah, I mean, they need to sell tickets to Mexican fans.
Good point.
Well, I mean, in theory, a lot of the fans are going to have to make travel arrangements, so that makes sense. It's just always weird to think of like anything MLS does as being like even halfway competent.
Yeah, no, it's not normally, but yeah, I've been hearing April for confirmation of the sites, and also like they need to book wherever these because like Rayados is going to have a base in the U.S. Like, yeah, if they're going to base out of Austin or Houston or wherever they're going to base out of, like you probably need to book the facilities, book the hotels, all that kind of stuff if you're going to be staying there for like a month.
Yeah.
But that involves logic, reason, and rationality. So things that are in very short supply in U.S. soccer /MLS/pro.
No, didn't they, like, every time I read something about this referee lockout, it sounds like both sides are just getting more pissed off and unreasonable.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the refs are asking for a lot. Like, let's not kid ourselves. Like, I'm so used to in my day job of collective bargaining agreements that are 9 and 10 figures. I'm not used to these 7-figure collective bargaining agreements, but the refs voted down a proposal and asked for more than their initial proposal. That's not the way you bargain.
No.
Both sides are going further apart here. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I am sympathetic to the refs. I've been helping organize things. Like, I am not against the ref union. I want them to succeed here. But, like, you also have to set up reasonable terms for everyone to succeed on. And when you're already $2 million apart and both sides are going further apart, this seems like we're heading towards a year-long lockout.
Yeah, I mean, when that initially broke, I was very like pro ref, and now I'm still very pro ref on this one, at least on the like negotiation terms. But it doesn't seem like they're trying to, lend an extra hand or anything.
I just want to point out, Seth, you said the beginning of this was a squabble over $2 million, roughly,
yes.
Right? That is fucking peanuts in this league.
That's a commercial for Messi. Tell Messi to go to Outback Steakhouse. $2 million right there.
We know that Austin FC, based on some data that we found, makes over $8 million a year on 17 home matches and concessions.
Yes.
I mean, Portland just splashed what, $10 million in a transfer? They're about to?
They're about to splash $15 million on a transfer.
Cincinnati just did. Cincinnati, Charlotte just did $8 million.
For about a year.
It's fucking $2 million over 30 clubs. It's less than $100,000 a club, or 29 clubs. It's less than $100,000 a club. Like, fucking cut the check at $2 million at that point.
It's less than $100,000 a club when the clubs are selling $20 beers.
Yes.
Yeah, and I realize not every club has all the money in the world, but even still, it's literally a minimum senior roster salary per club at the beginning of all this, and you're squabbling over $2 million. If you listen to Will Bruin's 30-minute conversation the other day that he had with the Sounders guys, he made an interesting point. And Seth, you're closer to a lot of this. You probably understand it more than we definitely do. But he said a lot of times with these negotiations, it's about MLS just wanting to win the negotiation.
Yep.
Damn the torpedoes.
Yep. 100% believe that.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah,
if this is over $2 million,
it's
exactly what this is. If it's $2 million, it's exactly what this is. If you want to be a big boy league in U.S. sports landscape, no big boy league in the U.S. sports landscape is going to let their fucking officials walk over $2 million fucking dollars.
Like fucking Roger Goodell would write a personal check for that.
I'm only half joking. Write a personal check. Actually, that's a good question. But like, I have multiple times on this podcast called for more public release of MLS's financial information. I don't even think we know how much a lot of MLS senior leadership is making on this. And what they've done is interesting. They've thrown up Nelson Rodriguez, who's one of their vice presidents, who's the guy here in Chicago is known for tanking the fire, and then managed to get promoted to the New York Central office as being the spokesperson on this and on Open Cup. So it's like, oh, we found our scapegoat for both of these things. It is just like, wow, just like what decision making is happening? Like in the Open Cup thing, I'm going to pivot there a little bit. Like the Open Cup has brought on new sponsors this year. They've got Marriott signed up as a sponsor. They got Pepsi signed up as like they're getting real sponsors for the Open Cup this year. There's going to be more money involved, and we're going to have 8 MLS teams, and a few of them are teams that are openly going to play their next pro teams anyway. So we just gave LAFC 2 a 3-round bye in the Open Cup. Like, give me a break. This system makes no freaking sense.
The sponsors need to be putting pressure on the league at this point.
Yeah.
You know, saying,
yeah,
hey,
that's
look,
really the only answer at this point.
Yeah, the sponsors have to put pressure on the league. We're paying all this money, and now I'm getting less exposure for what I'm paying for than when I signed on at the beginning. Like, you need Yeti to push on Austin FC and say, what am I getting out of this, my sponsorship, when you're taking the games away from me? Like, it's stupid that they're not doing that, but they're probably not paying attention enough and don't care.
No, and I think with MLS, too, you have to factor in that these are a lot of the same dipshits that run U.S. soccer, and anybody who's ever been around U.S. soccer knows what a clusterfuck that is.
So well, I was going to say that, and I was also like how many NFL owners there are.
That's a good point.
But NFL owners should understand this. They understand how bad the 2012 ref lockout was for the league.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. If the Fail Mary hadn't happened, I think that lockout goes on a lot longer, though. I bet if you asked the owners about that, they would have said, had that one call been right, we could have made it this season.
Yeah. The fact that it happened on Monday Night Football is huge. The first time a call cost Messi a goal or a game on national TV that's not behind a paywall is when this show get fixed.
Yeah, or in front of like 80,000 fans at Arrowhead or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be an event like that. Did anybody think that I'm sorry, I'm going to try to get us back on track. Did anybody think the foul on Danny Pereira in the box was a penalty? I thought that was pretty obviously not.
Like, no, it was not. It was a penalty in the sense that, oh my God, this is the only way we're ever going to score. So yes, I call that a slack penalty, not a real penalty.
I thought it was a penalty in the same way that I think it was a foul anywhere else on the field. Therefore, it's a penalty. Like I hate the concept. I think we talked about this before. I hate the concept and the idea of it has to be extra foul for it to be a penalty if it's in the box. That's bullshit. That's not the way the rule is. The rule is if it's a foul in the box, it's a penalty. He got pushed down from behind. That's a penalty.
See, I don't think it was behind. I think the defender's arm is in front of him, and then Danny turns his shoulder to look like it's behind. But I think the defender's in front of him.
Here's the question. Do you think that gets called a foul outside the box?
I don't know.
But then again, we also had one on the other end later in the match that was more likely a clear penalty.
Are you talking about the handball?
Well, the handball, and then you had the elbow there as well later on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought both teams got away with a penalty last night. So I thought it evened out. But yes, my opinion on the Danny thing is he got fouled, and that should have been a penalty.
And I think this is sort of, we were talking about do you notice any difference with the refs a little bit? It's things like what you were talking about where I don't know if like big calls I'm noticing them missing more, but like small stuff like that was a foul. No, it wasn't. Like you kind of mentioned, that was clearly a corner kick. Why is it a goal kick? And those are going to start catching up when we get this stuff like, okay, but that was a foul. That was a handball. And then the people who aren't trained on VAR are going to be like, I'm not stepping in on that.
Or, I mean, it's much harder to do than it has been in past seasons because the MLS VAR Twitter account is no longer tweeting out every time that they do things on VAR. But there was, on average last season, I think it was between 3 and 4 calls that would go to VAR. Last week it was 14. I believe this week it was over that 3 to 4 range once again, and we still have another match later today.
Do you mean like they check it or like they send the guy to the monitor?
Well, that when they send the person to the monitor, it went up to. And then, as what we've heard is that the referees, if Dallas tells them to overrule it, that they have to overrule it, which is crazy. But that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, they made a bad system worse, which isn't surprising because it's MLS, but could be worse. We'll see how. But
we never underestimate their ability to make things worse.
Yeah, I didn't think any of them were penalties, to be honest. Maybe
I was a little worried about the Hedges handball when it happened live, just as I have seen like kind of similar plays get called, but I didn't think it was a penalty.
Yeah, they were kind of all in the if it gets called on the field, it's not getting overturned thing for me. But I didn't think any of them were like a go to the monitor and fix it type of thing.
Yeah, that's fair.
I guess since we're doing the boring thing and going back and talking about the actual fucking game, I actually it felt like the entire game, like I mentioned earlier, was kind of played in our own third, but it didn't feel like there were as many clear-cut chances as against Minnesota. Because like that Minnesota game, the first 20 minutes, they probably should have had 4 goals. And Seattle had a lot of shots, but they were kind of like speculative, or we had a guy blocking it. And I wonder if some of that was a little bit of the grass playing slower, like you were talking about, Brad. But it didn't seem like there was a guy standing on the edge of the 6 heading the ball at Stuver, like bang, 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 repeatedly, like it did against Minnesota.
We did a really good job of playing compact down low. So like you were saying, there were shots, but they were largely outside the 18 that were on the edge of the 18 that were coming in, and they would find players to go wide, or whatever the case may be, find defenders. So that's like I said, if there's a positive I take out of the game last night, that was one of the best defensive games we have played in a long, long time, top to bottom.
Yeah, I think the only big lapse I noticed that was recurring was there were a few times Gallagher pinched in a little bit too much, and they had that floated ball to the back post that was open. Yeah. That's so we got the a couple other chances. But I mean, that'll happen.
Like the Rui Diaz rocket at the end that should have gone in? Yeah.
That's the one I had in mind, yeah. Are we looking at this game differently? Like, obviously, we're going to look at it differently if we lose versus draw, but are we like gnashing of teeth, rending of garments, wolf out if we end up losing that game?
No, I mean, I think all of us are wolf out at this point. Like, it is, you'd have to run off probably 4 to 6 consecutive wins with a real coherent game plan that is working and adjusting for us to not be at that point. Is that where you guys are at? Because that's where I'm at.
Well, we got a 5-game month this month. If we somehow pulled out 10 plus points, I would calm down on it.
Yeah, I think it's a degree thing for me where, and I said this last year when results weren't going our way, it's a style of play and does the team look like they want to be out there type of thing a lot of the time, unless dumb luck on a goal. Like I think the perfect one was the Alex Ring against New England last year, where he just uncorks an absolute golazo at the end of the game to save us a draw, but we got our asses kicked. So that doesn't change my mind on the coach a ton.
I mean, you can make that same case about Ethan Finley's goal at Seattle last year too. I mean, at this point, I don't think there's anything that. Well, let me rephrase. I think the team's bad. I don't think the roster is good enough to be a winner. I also don't think Josh is a good coach. I'm not sure anything could change either of those opinions with the current roster and the current coaching makeup. And just seems like I'm all in for team tear it all down.
Here's where it's going to, I think, really ramp up. Driussi's probably back next week. Probably going to play 30, 40 minutes is my guess. If we continue,
you don't think he starts back just to prove people were like, I feel like Sam is one of these players, like, if he can start, he will start, and because we have no better options.
I hope we don't just rush him back into the starting lineup. I mean, he's the most important player on the team. As much as we need him, that would be insane to me.
Yeah.
So if we get Drusy back and we still look this anemic on offense, at that point, there is no defensible position for Wolf. And I don't think there is one now in the first place because we looked like this last year with Drusy. But with the new players, with Rubio, with O'Brien, hopefully giving you a little more speed and a little more creativity out there. And if Drusy comes back and we still can't score, Jesus, man, it's just going to get louder. And rightfully so.
Yeah. I mean, I've been kind of advocating, since early last year. It's for me almost like a pull a goalie in hockey approach where, you got 20 guys out there who are dogging it and playing like shit. Like, can't replace all of them. So at least not in one window. So, I'm kind of fine with team tear it down, play the new guys, play the kids to the extent we can play the kids because MLS is stupid fucking rules. Yeah. Let's just see something different. Put it in all out attack mode, all out counter, try gegenpress, do something different. And if it doesn't work, fine, whatever. We're still in the spot we were before, but like different shows that you recognize it's a problem. And the fact that we keep doing the same shit just makes me feel like Josh is perfectly fine with what's going on.
I mean, he is. I mean, if you look at the substitutions last night, like all the substitutions were like for like.
Oh, I wrote them in before the game, by the way. What the subs would be and when.
I mean, yeah, you can absolutely do that with the way that Wolf coaches. Like, it's very, he is not going to deviate from what his plan is, and no matter what else is going on. And like, it's very clear that like, it was very clear to me even early on in the game that the goal was to not allow Seattle to score more than it was to try to get 3 points. And I think it was Seth who referenced the Spanish commentary. What my understanding of it from people I've talked to who listened was that, they felt like Austin didn't have a desire to win. And going back to, Will Bruin's comments about mentality and even, reports last year of Diego telling his LA teammates that Austin's going to fold if you push them. Like, there is a core problem of mentality and belief in the club and in the roster, and that comes from the coach.
Yeah, you mentioned the subs last night. I'm going to ask a roster question. Why in the hell are we wasting our limited ability to call players up for emergency matches and then not using them, or even in Salam Azafaro's case, not even putting them in the 20?
So Brad, there's a little bit of there that we did not waste them in a sense. So for the 4 short-term windows, you can only actually appear in 2 of those matches.
Okay.
So that what we used last night from Val Noel and from Antonio Gomez is those were their 2 of their 4 appearances where they're allowed to be in the 20, but not necessarily make it into the 11. And like, they were very clear, like, if someone gets hurt, they are coming in, and that's why they're coming in at this point. So like, that was fine. What happened with Sal is much more unclear to me, and maybe we sort of get that back if he doesn't make the 20. Like, that part is like, did he just like, do we just like pay for it? What do you have to pay for a plane ticket? We have a charter plane. They can just throw him on the plane. But like, I don't understand what Sal's issue was there. And that's someone who knows way more about MLS rules than I do. So like, probably 400 people have to answer that one.
Yeah. The other point I think too about subs, if you brought them out last night, and I get you might want to use the appearance, whatever the case might be. If you're trying to steal a game late and score a goal, and we started getting some movement on the counterattack, isn't Val Noel a better option than than Owen Wolf at the end there?
Yes.
Why are we not putting the creative, faster player out there in the 10 spot instead of putting Josh's kid out there? And I'm sorry, I hate to be that dismissive of Owen because I don't think Owen's a bad technical player, but that was the wrong sub to make if you're actually trying to score a goal.
Yeah, you referenced Rigoni as our, closest thing to a 10 we had. And I was like, well, you got Noel on the bench. I understand probably not wanting to start him, but I'm with you. You get to 75, 80 minutes.
Like, throw him out there, man.
Yeah, why not?
We got to lose.
And yeah, I think we've done the Owen stuff to death. Like I was very defensive of people being like, "Oh, he's only on the field because his dad's the coach." At first, as soon as Josh started chucking him in immediately when he came back from the Youth World Cup, I was just like, "Oh, this isn't good," and it hasn't gotten better. So I'm pretty on record with this about thinking that Owen's career is not going to do well hanging around with Dad.
Oh, of course not.
But then again, Tyler's career got away from Dad and hasn't gone much better either.
Wasn't he scheduled to or is he loaned back or something to a team in Europe and this summer? That never happened.
So, I mean, he was in Belgium. He came back to Atlanta. I believe he is still with, he's with Atlanta United.
Okay.
He was just on loan at Beverin.
Yeah, because he got into the match last week against Columbus for them.
Yeah. But he's been like a marginal role player, which is kind of disappointing if you're someone like that.
I don't know.
He'll be
starting
for San Diego next year.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying we have to remember that most soccer players don't work out.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have to remind ourselves of that it is exceedingly rare to even get to this point in your career, and even you see how many players in this roster fail on a continuous basis.
Yeah, Tyler is probably going to be the Jared Stroud for the San Diego team next year. Fine.
Yeah, still a professional player. He's doing all right.
I mean, I'd rather live in San Diego than Atlanta.
Yeah, are we gonna have to protect CJ in that draft?
God, we better.
Doesn't he have some weird GA roster protection thing?
I think that expires after 2 years, unless we signed him to a 3-year deal. I have to double check on that.
Okay, yeah, it's not a problem we have to solve today.
Yeah.
Speaking of problems we haven't solved, segue to get us back on track. We all bitched and moaned about Zardes starting the first game of the season. Rubio came out and started yesterday. Zardes came on as a sub, obviously, as we referenced. Zardes was worse, but Rubio didn't do much. So I don't know if that moved the needle on who should start or not for anyone.
I think you could have Erling Haaland starting at striker for us, and it's not going to matter until we get a midfield that can get the ball to them.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, especially watching that game.
Well, also, I thought Seattle did a really good job of shutting down, passes into Rubio, and they kind of marked Danny out of the game, which I think was part of what the disconnect that Brad's talking about. But I thought their midfield did a good job of kind of controlling that area.
Yeah, I've noticed that more and more, too. A lot of, I don't know if this is a regression from Danny or teams just marking him out and we haven't figured it out yet, but I've been noticing that more and more, into the back half of last year.
Well, Josh said after the game last night, in Phil West quotes this morning, that they were playing Danny as a 10. In what world is Danny a 10?
I was watching that game. He didn't look like a 10 to me, but
that's the position they tried him out last night. And they were trying to put we've all been wanting him pushed higher up the field, but none of us think he's the guy that you want at the 10 spot ever. So is it that Danny was getting marked out of the game, or is it that Danny's playing a position that he's not really qualified to play?
Yes.
Yeah. Good answer. I feel like a lot of these are going to be yes answers.
I mean, to me, those kind of go hand in hand. At a certain point, you have to understand your importance of providing play to the team and understand your own gravity with the defense and how to try to use your movement as a way to create spaces for others. And I don't think that's and this is not a fault on Danny because this is a position he's not used to playing, but I don't think that's something that he quite gets at this level yet. Whereas you'd see somebody like Driussi who, in order to get the ball will come back deeper or go out wider because he knows that he's forcing the defense to adjust to his own movement to try to create space.
Yeah. Also noticed too, our back line's playing deeper, but I don't know if that's just we're getting smacked around, so that's sort of natural part of the play, or if it's actually strategic.
I feel like the fullbacks are playing deeper.
Yeah, definitely. But maybe,
and that kind of takes away some of the point of having a Kolmanich and a Gallagher over on both sides.
Yeah, I thought Kolmanich has been very defensive the first couple of games, but I didn't know if that's just sort of feeling it out, coming back from an injury or what. Or if it's a tactical thing or what.
Or he's
It feels
just not in
tactical.
great shape yet.
Yeah.
It feels tactical because Josh has openly said that they stress defense in the offseason. But like I said earlier, I think we're seeing enough out of Biru early that it's not going to take long for Biru to take over that starting spot.
How long do you think that's going to take?
2 more weeks.
2 more weeks? Okay.
Yeah, I was definitely going
have...
to say like by the end. I was thinking he'll definitely start by the end of March.
Okay. Another decent question for you guys. By the end of March, will Johan Valencia be suspended for yellow card accumulation?
It will be. I'm going to put it on the St. Louis match, which is match 8 of the season. So I'm saying he's going to get a yellow card in 5 of the first 7 matches. So 2 down. Okay. So 3 of the next 5.
I'm kind of teasing because I thought he was really good, and I'm glad we played like an actual defensive midfielder. And it obviously helped, I think, in shielding the back line a little bit. But he made it for a while. He made it in the second half. But I just keep wondering about this.
Sorry, I was confused for a second. I forgot that St. Louis away is the 8th match.
Yeah.
I think it's 50-50. Like I think it's an even money bet in Vegas.
Okay. It might be a fun prop bet if we can find it.
I don't think anyone is putting prop bets on this because like the level of sickoness that you need to get for yellow card. Like I don't even think of the EPL that you can bet on that, but maybe you
can. You can bet on whether a player will be yellow card in a single game, but I don't know about suspensions.
Yeah, like where you're going to get suspended. That's next level stuff.
Yeah.
Here's the interesting question for me. Valencia's played really well, I think, in that defensive midfield, that true defensive midfield role that he's been asked to do. And that's what he's been best at since he's been here. We tried to make him into more possession based because that's what we do. When Driussi's back, who's your starting midfield? Who's the odd man out? Because I don't think Alex Ring has shown us enough to justify staying in the lineup right now. But neither has Danny Pereira at this point. We just know what he can do.
Just a Driussi pick.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer Ring to be subbed out, but I expect Danny will be the one that goes.
I think I would leave Ring out there solely because if stuff starts to go sideways, he's more likely to pull out some leadership. Come on, rah, 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 guys. I don't know how likely he is, but I think he's more likely than Danny.
Yeah, see, I think that, I don't know. I mean, I think some of it is matchup dependent as much as we think Wolf might be matchup dependent, which is that, like, I think Ring and Danny with Driussi helps us provide more ability to, in theory, be on the ball and to get out of pressure more. Whereas if we're trying to hunker down, I think using Valencia and Ring makes more sense.
Sure, but
I don't know. But I don't know how much you can do that.
If Driussi's on the field, you would think that opens up some space to get out of that pressure at the back, right? Because the other team has to honor the fact that Driussi's out there.
I mean, yes, but I think we have a lot of matches that we've watched that are contrary.
Fair.
I mean, do we change shape, or should we change shape? I know we're not going to, and actually move, a little bit closer into that 4-2-3-1 or something like that. And you can play, Ring and Valencia deeper.
Christmas tree.
I love the Christmas tree. I think that's actually better for Rigoni too, because it's a little more direct, and you're not just, he's a winger, but he's not really like a boots on the chalk line type of guy.
Agreed. He's better more central where he can run a little bit more, which is why I was kind of part of the Rigoni as a striker campaign leader. Just because I think that gets him into better spaces.
Yeah. Well, I guess, do we actually have any leads on knowing for sure if Driussi is going to be back next week, or are we all just being really hopeful?
No, Wolf said post game that they expect him back next week.
Okay. And I know, Seth, you had sort of half mentioned this. No news on signings. We had a link, but that guy's going to Charlotte now?
Yeah. Leah Abada is going to Charlotte, and Charlotte's paying over $8 million for him. He is good. He has a lot of potential. He would have been an outstanding fit on our team, but $8 million is a lot to spend on a DP, and I think Roto has other things cooking, and that's okay.
I mean, I'm even happy with like a rumor with a, kind of young, talented player on a team that I think they're in Champions League group stage this year. We'll take that.
Yeah. I mean, dude produced in Celtic, right? So
That's Celtic, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be great if we could have gotten him, but we're not out there splashing $8 million for a young DP spot right now. That's what it is.
Yeah, but I mean, what happens if we do splash 8 million and, we get somebody else who's, a very similar profile and then they don't work out? And do we just say like, oh, the player sucks, or it's wolf ball, or like what happens? We have to watch the game and use our eyes to tell?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we will have to keep watching the games.
I was hoping we could get out of that.
We don't have to watch. We just choose masochism.
Oh, gosh.
I have no idea.
All right. You guys want to go ahead and do the format stuff?
Let's go.
Yep.
I got
All
mine
right.
written down.
Brad, you can go first. Stock rising.
I mentioned Biru a couple of times today, but for me, it was Matt Hedges last night. I thought he played a fantastic game. He was in the right spots, made a couple of key plays to make sure the shutout stayed. And that's the guy who, when we traded for him, that you were hoping to get. And if we get that kind of solid play on the back line from him, when Leo Väisänen is healthy, there is a serious question of, is Leo Väisänen in the starting lineup over Hedges or Cascante if Hedges and Cascante continue to play like they did last night?
No, then we do the every Arsenal fan's dream and move a center back into central midfield.
Or we
turn him into a defensive midfielder.
Yeah, or we play a true three at the back with wingers. With
yeah.
wingbacks.
Yeah.
All right, Seth, how about you?
I'm going to go right across to Julio Cascante. I mean, Julio Cascante looked like a Costa Rican national team deserving player last night. Like, he is still, yes, is Julio the fastest guy running back on a ball? No. But Julio had, I almost wish it was like the NBA and we had actual block stats. But it just felt like he was everywhere last night, he was getting into the right places at the right times. He was aggressive. He was there. I will say Jackson Reagan had an outstanding game for the Sounders. So I will give him as the best center back on the field, but Julio was pretty close to him, and Jackson Reagan was everywhere last night. So you know what? The back line is the nicest thing I could say about this past match.
Yeah, I agree. Charles?
My first two got taken. I was going to say Biru. I'll go Biru then, because I do see the potential there, especially the technical ability and the on-ball ability. We're all excited to see him be able to have the stamina to play more than 20 or 25 minutes, which hopefully is very soon. Partially just because it would be nice to see some changes.
Yeah, he had a nice play. I mean, granted, it's in our own back corner where he beat two guys and then cleared it, but it was ooh, there's some fancy footwork there. A little Bonito.
I think one of the announcers last week said something about you can really tell he's from Brazil and he plays volleyball. And I was like, well, yeah. I mean, we also know that because you should have done the homework on World Players Abroad.
He's got some sauce to him, man.
Yeah.
And for a team that doesn't have that kind of on-ball dribbling ability, that's going to be really important.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I mean too. Maybe he goes rogue and dribbles past three people and loses the ball and we get scored on. Whatever, we're being bad in a different way. And that's kind of what our bare minimum is at this point.
Yeah, be Texas Tech mid 2000s bad, right?
Yeah,
just you're not great, but at least be fun.
Yeah, just do something different. Do something. Classic meme. I'm going to take the other one I had on the board because those are pretty much all of my picks. But Valencia, I think, was great again. Got the start this week, and We're having trouble linking midfield even when he's not in there, so I don't know if his passing is really as much of a liability when the entire midfield, no matter who we pick, is a liability. So I think it makes more sense to put the destroyer shielder guy in there. And I think he's done well. I'm going to miss him when he gets his 3-game yellow card suspension at the end of the year. I think, Stuver had another great game, but we can't really stock rise him anymore after Minnesota. I would put him at more of like a stock neutral.
Can we stock split him?
I don't know the physics about the MLS contract works on that. All right, let's go ahead and do stock fallings. I think there's a few good choices here, but Charles, you want to go first?
Sure. My stock falling is going to be MLS having league-wide announcers. Last night we had Keith Costigan and Lori Lindsay, and it was very clear that neither of them had watched previous matches from either team or knew what they were talking about. And if you played a not even drinking game, like not even doing like shots of mentions, but like if you were just like sipping whatever drink you were on, at every time Keith Costigan mentioned Zardes' name, you would have blacked out, which might have been preferable.
The worst part about this is that both Keith Costigan and Lori Lindsay have called multiple Austin FC matches before.
I was going to say, I thought I remembered Costigan on one.
What'd you say?
I thought I remembered at least Costigan on one.
Costigan last year did at least 5 or 6 of our matches, including both legs of the Violette match. Like, he knows that we're terrible. And he sure didn't talk about us like we were terrible last night, which is weird. Lori Lindsay was Adrian's partner for when she was calling ESPN games in 21 and 22. Like, this is not like – these are people who have seen Austin FC multiple times, and it was like they had selective amnesia.
Where can I get that?
Yeah.
It'd be really nice to just –
like at one point, like –
Go ahead.
No, like at one point it felt like almost like the FIFA announcer of like they say the lines and then just like a name gets put in partway through, and there was just like list striker 2 to play with striker 1 as an option for a team needing a goal, and that's just kind of what it felt like.
You know what I would rather have, and I know Brad's a fan of him as well, is our guy George Mattel, who did the call on the Philly Saprissa game in midweek. I mean, he was mispronouncing. I mean, he was calling one of the Saprissa players whose last name was East West. He was calling Jesus Bueno Jesus Good. It was outrageous. But
this man was doing pop culture references left and right. Like, it was beautiful. I loved every second of it.
Again, bad, but in an interesting way. Can we do that?
I mean, like, I'm just saying, you guys know I broadcast on the side for sporting events, and I often do games by myself. And for baseball, I did games by myself for years. You say shit to keep yourself entertained in the booth when you're not talking to anyone, man. So I love it. Keep doing it, man. And the thing is, that first game wasn't even boring. It was actually really entertaining.
With 8 CCC matches midweek this week, I really hope he gets some calls. I'm now going onto his Twitter profile to see if he is telling us which matches he's going to call. Because like even if it's like the 4 p.m. Tuesday match between Herediano and Robin Hood from Suriname, it's must-watch TV.
I would have had way more fun getting our ass kicked by Violette if you'd have been calling that game last year.
Especially because he's Haitian too. So like he would have had all sorts of backs. Like it would have been the amount more that we would have learned about honky honk alone would have
been worth it.
I love that, by the way, you could say honky honk and that song immediately pops in my head and I know the beat.
Yep.
So
it'll be there forever.
The other thing here that I'm going to share with you is that the Philly Union Twitter admin did a map of George's call of his brain. I'm going to put this in our non-existent show notes here, but it was it's spectacular.
Hey, if you send it to me, I'll put it in the show notes. They do exist. I will. Don't say anything.
Yes.
Yeah. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I laughed my ass off at it.
Good. All right.
That's the one thing I will say about MLS. The admins are, for the most part, pretty good. Like the Twitter admins and the Instagram admins, they're solid.
Yeah, St. Louis City put out a bunch of like pro U.S. Open Cup stuff this week, and Had a bunch of people send me it, and I was like, "Oh, sure, admins did anything interesting."
No, we
Need
might
to
get
get
we might get a drone video every once in a while.
Yeah, our admins put out pretty stuff, but it's not funny.
Yeah, I went to like Domino's UK people, or I think Wendy's is a pretty good one too. Sometimes I need to eat lunch. Seth, do you want to do your stock falling?
My stock falling would be the United States Soccer Federation for the Open Cup fiasco that we have here. I mean, there's too many Austin FC related choices, but we spent 45 to 50 minutes covering everyone outside of the back line and why they did a terrible job yesterday. So as we go into this point, on Friday and then yesterday, they announced the 64/96 teams that are in the first round and overall in U.S. Open Cup. They mandated that MLS could only have 8 full teams because that's what MLS demanded of them because they were afraid of a multi-year legal battle, which U.S. Soccer is already in the middle of a huge legal battle over the NASL and licensing. So they're just like, we're not going to go fight this. They caved into MLS, and U.S. Soccer should have held firm when they are actually apparently have a better plan for this. I will say the draw has led to the potential to do one of the most sicko things of all time, which I am openly considering doing here in 2.5 weeks. There are 2 Open Cup matches in Chicagoland, one that is at 6:00 on Wednesday, and one that is at 7:00. And I think the 6:00 one has the potential to be a blowout. So the possibility of going to the first half of one match, driving a half hour to the second match, and going to see the second 60 or so minutes of that match.
Do it. You'll be a legend.
Yeah.
But
didn't most people go to like the FCTO match and an Austin FC match in the same day in like Dallas and Austin last year?
Yeah, Leslie and David did that.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That was the day where there were the crazy thunderstorms. So like they ended up making it to like 3 hours, but like a half hour into the normal time match. But then that match didn't start till like 11:30.
Yeah, that was the Galaxy game. Yeah.
Giving up 2 goals at 1 a.m.
Yes.
I'm very as much as I'm pissed about the way the Open Cup's happening, I am excited to be at Parma for FC2 to go watch that because I care about that tournament and that's actually one that I want to go see. I have no idea though what a 40 SC is or whatever the hell their name is.
40 SC, they are a club that is from Dallas proper. They're sort of like a Lone Star type group. That they are as 40 Sports Club Dallas About Us page, you can go see. Is a lifestyle anchor. God, this feels like marketing buzzwords is a lifestyle anchor to retail and residential developments. FSC offers league play, rentals, skills, camps, tournaments, fitness, hospitality, and entertainment. 2 pro quality playing surfaces, multi-sport all weather. They offer they run this whole initiative and that they have a La Liga Academy. And they're the official La Liga Academy, and they're trying to develop young players to go sell them abroad, to go finance their rec sports program.
But if I have my birthday there, do they have go-karts?
They have at their facility. Do they have? I see multiple soccer/football facilities. I see 6 courts. I do not see any go-karting.
This sounds like the crossover in Leander.
A little bit, yeah.
So it should be a fun time.
This really sounds like an MLM that somebody like I didn't really talk to in high school sent me on Facebook.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but I hope we beat them. I hope that we get to beat the Lubbock Matadors at some point because there's nothing good that happens up in the Panhandle. Even though I know Lubbock people insist that they're not part of the Panhandle, they're part of the Panhandle. That there's a and as going through this, I hope that we can make a deep run into this tournament. And I'll say FCTO, unlike the first team, is undefeated in playoff-style knockout tournaments.
It's true. It's true. And so this is Tuesday, March 19th at Palmer Field, 8 p.m. confirmed?
8 p.m. confirmed. Unclear. I assume it'll probably be like $12 tickets, just like a normal FCTO match.
I cannot wait to heckle some random dude from 40. This is going to be a blast.
Yeah.
Oh, Caitlin Clark just missed the logo 3 to break the NCAA scoring record. She's 2 points short, and it looks like it's going to go into the second half on this challenge here.
All right.
You get to learn about all sorts of sports here on this podcast.
Yeah, anything to avoid talking about an Austin FC game. Stock falling. Brad, how about you?
MLS kit matchups, because for the first 45 minutes I couldn't tell who was what
Yeah,
last night.
I don't know if this
Also-
is like the gradient on like the Apple feed is really weird. Like every other sport I have perfectly fine, and like the greens are too bright or something on the way they set everything, and I'm not gonna like fuck with my TV every time I watch those games.
Well, if you ever play FIFA, occasionally the game will default to like a white kit versus white kit matchup, and you're not paying attention.
Yes.
And it'll happen. And that's basically what I was watching last night, where I couldn't tell like half the time who was what. It was really hard to pay attention.
Yeah.
Also,
And
I
then
might be
the-
the only one who thinks this, but I think those Portland kits are bad.
You mean the Seattle kits?
I'm sorry, the Seattle kits. I thought the Seattle kits.
Yeah, I think the Seattle kits don't actually, like, those colors don't flow together in that way. I'm not a fan.
I think they're the rare example of a kit that actually looks worse on players than it did in like the mock-up.
I think it looks great in the still pictures that I'm looking
Yeah.
at. I think it's terrible on TV.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because you're playing on like a grass field or turf or whatever that's green, but I'm with you. I like the concept, and then I saw him in the game, and I was just like, oh, those aren't great. Fashion tips, all sorts of other non-Austin FC sports. We got it all for you here. My stock falling is every MLS game that isn't played in a driving blizzard with an orange ball. Because it reminded me of the sorry Costa Rica listeners, trigger warning, the Snow Classico. And it didn't hurt that like this game probably should have never kicked off, and then once they started it, they clearly couldn't abandon it because there was no way
Go ahead. Sorry.
I didn't think there was any way, unless you got a phone call from the league, the replacement ref was going to call it off.
Here's what's so wild. Before that, they were predicting like 30 to 40 mile an hour winds with gusts up to 65 during the game. And then they let most of it come through. It was still windy as hell. And then the snow started. Have you seen the LAFC and Cherundolo quotes today coming out of yesterday?
Yes.
I saw like a vague, this is embarrassing for the sport, yada, yada, yada stuff.
They are pissed off.
Good.
It's hilarious.
Couldn't happen to a nicer group of assholes. Yeah, I guess LAFC losing that game 3-0 definitely helped too.
Hugo Lloris is just questioning every decision he's made in the last year.
So I asked this and nobody's been able to answer me. I don't think he's ever won a club trophy. Because he was at...
Oh, did he not win the Audi Cup?
Oh, he did win the vaunted Audi Cup. I forgot about that. Okay. So not a major trophy, I guess, is how we would say it.
The thing I thought
Ohio
that was
State got a
weirdest about
technical foul, so Caitlin Clark did break the scoring record before halftime.
You heard it here, history, folks.
No, the thing that I thought was weird about playing the match was that like they were playing in the afternoon. Like they could have just like waited. Like I didn't understand why like they felt like an impetus to start that match exactly then.
Because probably the Scabs had flights to catch out of Salt Lake that night.
Could have been that, and the weather was getting worse as the game went on, so maybe it was just this is the best time we're possibly going to get this fit in here.
Yeah, and it's like it's going to get colder, and I don't know necessarily snowier, but the conditions aren't going to improve, and the people are already at the stadium, and you don't want to like when you get to that level of snow, you don't want to send people on the roads even later. That's not a good idea.
Yeah, they clearly scheduled the game in the early afternoon because Salt Lake City in March 2nd, this can happen. But
I mean, we played there last year at 7:30 on March, I think, like 10th or something. So, and it was cold, but it wasn't anything else. I actually think last night's match, I was just checking in with some people who were there, was the coldest match that Austin FC has ever played in team history. It was about 37 degrees last night, which was slightly colder than the FC Cincinnati home opener 2 years ago.
By the way, in Salt Lake, looking at the weather right now, it's still snowing apparently.
Yeah. Okay. Good for them. Good for them. Seth, you want to lead us off with your moment of suffering?
Biggest moment of suffering, I would say, was that the Rui Diaz crossbar there of like in a weird way, I'm like, obviously, I'm glad we got the point. Our goal is to achieve as many points as possible. But I was just like, oh gosh, he comes in, hits the crossbar that quickly. This is going to be 3-0. Like, we held on. Like, and then they're like, because I feel like if Seattle had scored last night, they would not have just scored one. They would have scored at least 3 goals because, like, our defense would not have held it together. But
yeah, that very much felt like a give up 1, give up 4 type of game.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to go next since mine's kind of related. It's when they subbed Rui Diaz on. Because I do remember the children's game, although that was here, where he just came on, scores a wonder goal, and that's the only thing that went for them, and they won that game. And I was just like, this guy's going to find some way to dagger it for us, and he almost did. But it wasn't to be. Charles, how about you?
My moment of suffering was actually this morning, where the United men and women were both up 1-0 and managed to give up equalizer goals within 3 minutes of each other.
That's a fun morning.
Which is really an incredible achievement for both of them.
Well, they're in sync. It's one club. They share a mission, right?
It was even funnier because the women's game started 30 minutes before the men's game did, and so like theirs was in like the 88th minute, I think, that they gave the equalizer. So at least then they didn't have to like have the problem the men had of just eventually it was just going to turn around completely.
Yeah, 1-0 to the Arsenal this morning. Brad, how about you? A moment of suffering.
So mine was Austin FC 2+ corners in each half was even money last night. And 20 minutes into the game, when you realize you're not even going to get a corner in half, that hurts pretty bad.
So, okay. We're just going to start doing esoteric ones of these now, aren't we?
Huh?
We're just going to all start doing esoteric ones of these now, aren't we?
I mean, realistically, the other one was Josh Wolf not getting a red card because I was so happy when he got a yellow.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
More of that, please, Josh.
I was really hoping he was going to get a red because I think the team might have started playing better.
Yeah. He gets he knows he can't get sent off because then if we come back, people are going to be like, Davey Arnaud's a better coach.
Honestly, and the reason I think it's all esoteric for me today, it's because if you really want to talk about the game, moment of suffering, it's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's the game.
See, I think the specific moment of suffering was there's a moment in the first half when Austin are like kind of on the counter and Rigone's dribbling the ball through the middle and he lays off a pass to Ring who just doesn't run for it. And then both of them yelled at each other.
Yes. And Ring had a freaking valley to go through too.
And it seemed really clear that like what had happened was Ring had specifically been told not to like venture too far forward. And I think that's like the actual moment of suffering from the match.
I forgot
so
about
then
that.
we can propose. Do we think that we're going to have a match this year where we will not have a majority of it be moments of suffering?
We'll find one. We got one like randomly good game out of nowhere in us, I'm sure. I said that before the opener.
We're not losing that many people to Copa America, right? There's got to be some players, some guys.
Houston, like the one thing is, I guess we do need to continue our streak of winning every single match against Houston at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we need to take home the greatest trophy in the world again.
Yes.
So,
yeah, both of those teams lost at home last night, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Did we ever get a format on Copa Tejas?
No, we have not gotten a format on Copa Tejas. They're more disorganized than MLS.
Yeah. Montreal is surprisingly interesting. So, especially after going down and getting that and beating Dallas. Like they've gone on the road back-to-back weeks now and gotten a point in Orlando and 3 points in Dallas.
Yeah, well, I'm going to see Montreal here in Chicago on the 16th for a game that has like world epic shit show level proportion ability because it is going to be a 1 p.m. kickoff on Chicago St. Patrick's Day.
Oh my God. Oh God.
Oh God is like, ooh, like there could be like, honestly, like putting a just like random drunk people stumbling into the stadium camera. Like if Apple doesn't have that going, like that could be our fund to pay for the refs.
There you go. Yeah, that would get, if not all the way there, a decent chunk of the way there.
I need to come to Chicago for that one time.
Yeah. Have you been here for St. Patrick's Day before?
No, I've done St. Patrick's Day in Savannah, Georgia, which doesn't sound crazy, but it's actually pretty damn wild.
Got to see both the Green Rivers.
No, Chicago does the Green River. Savannah doesn't. But Savannah, if you know the town, they have this cobblestone walk area called River Street downtown.
Yeah.
And it's all open container. It is shoulder to shoulder people the entire time. It's a complete shit show. But I have never done Chicago, so I got to make a point to come up there one year for this.
Yeah, no, it is a a lot of bars don't even stay open past 4 or 5 o'clock because people start drinking at 6 a.m.
It used to be that way in the Midwest. Like when I lived in Michigan, it was that way. Bars opened really early and just went all day long.
Yeah, that's how Mardi Gras in St. Louis always was.
The most depressing St. Patrick's Day I can ever remember, though, was funny. My first St. Patrick's Day living in Michigan, and I lived right next to Michigan State, and they lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament on St. Patty's Day.
Ooh.
While people were at the bar just celebrating and drinking. Oh my gosh, man, it turned bad real quick.
Well, I guess everyone's always wearing green there anyways, so that
exactly.
makes it even more confusing.
Yeah.
All right, I did find it, by the way. Apparently, Savannah was the first city to try to dye its river, and it all washed out into the sea, so now they just dye fountains.
Yeah, if somebody
Something
ever
about a
told
metaphor
you,
with Austin FC.
man, if somebody ever tells you, hey, let's go to Savannah for St. Patty's, just do it. Like it's really insane. I think it's like the third or fourth largest celebration in the country, of all places in the country.
Yeah, I knew they had a big setup there, but I wasn't sure if it was just like randomly, if there's like a huge Irish population or if it was just a random.
I mean,
thing.
there were people like I ran into who had flown in from around the world for it.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's a choice.
Yeah. But I guess it's on a Saturday this week too, or this year too. So extra
Is it
fun.
Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday. It's a Sunday this year.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone will be in church beforehand.
Yes, of course. Don't forget the true meaning of St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
Because Americans would never do that.
Never.
All right. Anything else you guys want to touch on since we're talking about St. Patrick's Day in Savannah, Georgia? It probably means we should go ahead and wrap this up.
You know what? I hope that we are blessed with an opportunity in the next month or so to talk about a match where we actually got 3 points and we want to spend a majority of this podcast talking about said match.
Yeah, I think we danced around it, but I don't think anyone said it this week. What's going to be our tagline for the year? It's going to be a long season. But hey, we're glad you're with us, and as always, thanks for suffering with us.
Promise here for Austin Jarrett Stroud. It's Diego Fagundes. He has written his name into Austin folklore.
They just won't go away.
Oh, he hits the upright again. That's impossible.
The Bears' season's going to end on a double doink.
Altidore squares it. Dempsey's missed it. Donovan has it. From hope, there is glory.